The last time my siblings contacted me, they didn't even use my name. They sent a cold, formal email with an attached promissory note and asked for $150,000, my entire retirement fund, non-refundable if their venture failed. Hi, I'm Maya Khanna, 36, a senior financial analyst. I live my life by ledgers and balance sheets because numbers, unlike people, don't lie. For a decade, I called into the void of my own family. I sent over $40,000 in loans during their crises, and I got nothing back. No thank you, no birthday text, no acknowledgement. That email wasn't just a request. It was a mirror. It showed me that I was never a sister to them. I was just a backup bank account. The second I stopped being useful, they didn't look for me. They just looked for my wallet. Before we go on, where are you watching from? A quiet kitchen table, a crowded train, or a lonely office break room? Shadows of Truth is here with you. I was 26 when I earned my first major promotion, senior auditor at a top-tier firm in Chicago. It wasn't just a job. It was my escape from a household where I was always the responsible one. 3 years of 80-hour weeks, endless black coffee, and the hum of fluorescent lights. I was so proud. The first person I called was my mother. The phone rang, then clicked into voicemail. I left a message, my voice bubbling with excitement. I called again the next day, and the day after. Nothing. A week later, I was scrolling through Instagram on my lunch break when I saw the photos. A lavish surprise anniversary party for my parents. 60 people, caterers, a professional band, and my brother, Rohan, smiling with his arm around my father. I wasn't invited. I didn't even know it was happening. I told myself the invite got lost in the mail. I told myself they were just so busy. I made excuses because I was desperate for their validation. I mailed them a high-end gift basket and tucked a $1,000 check inside, writing, "Congratulations on the milestone," in my best handwriting. I waited for a thank you, a single text, a sign that I mattered. The check cleared in 2 days. I know because I checked my bank account obsessively, like a habit I couldn't break. Still, no message came. That was when I started documenting. Not to be petty, but to keep my grip on reality. I saved every call log, every date, every seen message that went ignored. I stapled wire transfer confirmations to a notebook page. Every gift, every loan, every silence. At the time, I felt like a spy in my own home, but numbers don't have moods. My family constantly rewrote our history, claiming I was the distant one. But my notebook told the truth. Silence can be a balance sheet. Once the pattern settled in, it became purely transactional. My sister, Sneha, only called when she had a business opportunity. No hello, no, how are you? Just a frantic, high-pitched urgency. The first time, it was $12,000 for a boutique launch. She promised to pay it back in 6 months. I wired it that afternoon from my savings. The boutique closed in 3 months. When I asked about the funds, I got a text back. "We're in a tough spot. Don't be so cold-hearted." And I wasn't. I stayed warm. I stayed helpful. And I stayed empty. 2 years later, Rohan reached out for a temporary bridge loan for his house deposit. $20,000, half of my savings, gone in 48 hours. 3 months later, I saw them posting photos from a luxury vacation in the Maldives. They looked beautiful, happy, and entirely unbothered by the fact that their sister was working double shifts to recover from their emergencies. By then, the total was over $40,000. 0 thank yous, 0 returned calls, 0 visits. Yet I kept trying because walking away felt like betrayal. and staying felt like a slow death. 18 months passed without a single word. No texts, no emails. I counted the days like a prisoner. During that silence, I called 20 times. Cheerful, then worried, then honest. I just want to know if I did something wrong. Voicemail. That Christmas, I sent them premium gift cards. Tracked them. Delivered December 22nd. Signed for. Silence. That was the moment the fog cleared. It wasn't rage. It was just absolute, hollow exhaustion. I realized I wasn't fighting for a family. I was financing a performance that didn't include me. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday, embossed gold stationery. My father's 75th birthday gala at a high-end country club. After 18 months of total silence, they suddenly remembered I existed. My colleague, Vikram, did a quick check on public records. "Maya," he said, looking grave. "Your family's real estate firm is drowning. They're facing a massive tax lien, $200,000 due in 2 weeks. They're looking for a savior." I stared at the invite for a long time. Love doesn't go silent for a decade, then speak in calligraphy. I bought the ticket, not to rescue them, but to look them in the eye and finally witness the end of the lie. The country club glittered with an artificial, expensive light. 120 guests were listed on the RSVP board, a sea of silk and expensive suits. My father stood at the center of the ballroom, his smile wide and practiced. My mother hovered nearby, draped in pearls that I suspected were paid for by my last loan. My brother Rohan and sister Sneha were working the room, clinking champagne glasses like people who had nothing to lose. When I walked in, the room felt like it was holding its breath. My mother saw me first, her expression flickering from surprise to a predatory kind of delight. "Maya," she said, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "You actually came." My father moved toward me, pulling me into a hug that felt as cold as a bank vault. "My wonderful daughter," he boomed, loud enough for those nearby to hear. "It's been far too long. We've missed you dearly." Before I could even take a breath to respond, he steered me toward a private library off the main ballroom. Inside, Rohan and Sneha were waiting. A stack of legal documents sat on the heavy oak table. The top page was titled Private Capital Infusion Agreement, with a handwritten note in the margin, $150,000. "Sit down, honey," my father said, patting the chair. "The firm hit a small regulatory snag, just a temporary cash flow issue. With your investment, we'll clear the tax lien, and within 6 months, we'll triple your return." I didn't sit. I picked up the document and scanned the fine print. It was a predatory loan agreement, non-refundable, no collateral, and structured so that if the firm filed for bankruptcy, my money would be the first to be liquidated. I pulled out my phone and quietly snapped a photo of the contract, including the hidden clauses. Sneha's voice turned sharp, losing all its warmth. "What are you doing? We're family, Maya. Don't act like a stranger." "I'm reading," I replied, my voice steady. "I'm an auditor by trade. I read contracts before I signed my life away." My father leaned forward, his face hardening. "The tax deadline is Monday morning. That gives us 72 hours. You've always been the sensible one, the one who could save us." "And if I refuse?" I asked. My mother stepped into the doorway, her voice echoing into the ballroom. "Maya, if you don't help, everyone out there will know what kind of daughter you really are. How could you let your own parents lose their home over a few dollars?" That was the trap, the public stage. She was counting on my shame. She wanted to frame me as the cold-hearted career woman who abandoned her family in their time of need. She opened the ballroom doors wider, her voice projecting to the guests. "Everyone, please, could I have your attention? We have a special announcement." Heads turned. Conversations died. She stood in the doorway, trembling with practiced intensity. "I am so sorry to interrupt such a joyous night, but we're in a desperate situation. We've asked Maya to help her father secure the family legacy, but she refuses to help her own blood." Murmurs rippled through the room. Pitying glances shifted into glares of judgment. My father stood behind her, playing the part of the heartbroken patriarch, silent and stoic. I felt the weight of my bag. It held the notebook I had spent a decade filling, the evidence of every transfer, every silence, and every broken promise. If I stayed quiet, I would walk out of this gala as the villain, the daughter, who ruined her parents' 75th birthday. If I spoke, I would shatter the only world they had left. I walked past them, toward the stage, and the microphone my father had intended to use for his vanity speech. The 120 guests watched, expecting a breakdown. Instead, I stepped into the spotlight and tapped the microphone. The feedback shrieked, silenced by my calm. "My name is Maya Khanna," I said, my voice cutting through the room. "I'm the senior auditor they didn't want you to meet. I have a different story to tell." The ballroom went deathly silent. My mother's face lost all its color, and my father gripped the edge of the stage so hard his knuckles turned white. "I'd like 5 minutes," I said into the microphone, "to clarify why we are really here." I pulled a small USB drive from my bag and connected it to the ballroom's projection system. The massive screen behind me flickered to life. "Let's start with the numbers," I said. A bank ledger appeared on the giant screen. "January 2018, a $12,000 wire transfer," I narrated, my voice echoing, "for a boutique that Sneha claimed was a can't-miss opportunity. It closed in 3 months. No repayment, no contact." The screen flickered again. "March 2024, $20,000 transfer for Rohan's house deposit." I pointed to the projection. 2 months later, the Maldives vacation photos were posted. My funds were the ticket. A ripple of murmurs moved through the crowd. I changed the slide one last time. It was a summary table, the balance sheet of my family's neglect. $40,000 sent over 10 years, 288 phone calls, 0 returned, 0 visits, 0 acknowledgement. Someone near the bar set their champagne glass down with a sharp clink. My father tried to step forward, his voice booming with forced authority. "Maya, enough! This is a private family matter." "You made it a public spectacle when you tried to extort my savings in front of 120 guests," I retorted. I turned back to the screen, showing the contract I had photographed in the library. "And this isn't an investment. It's a predatory loan. They knew the tax liens were hitting Monday, and they needed a sacrificial lamb to keep the luxury lifestyle going for just a few more weeks." A man in the front row, a prominent local developer, stood up. "I'm one of your primary creditors, Arthur. Is this true? You've been asking me for extensions while you throw a gala like this?" The room began to empty. Guests whispered, phones were recording, and the illusion of the sterling legacy evaporated in real time. My mother was frantically trying to pull people back, but the damage was irreversible. I turned to my father, my voice final. "I didn't come here to ruin you, Father. You did that by choosing to treat your daughter like a ledger entry instead of a human being." I tore the predatory loan agreement into confetti, let the pieces fall to the stage, and walked out. I didn't look back when the doors slammed shut behind me. By Monday, the tax lien had triggered a total foreclosure. The firm collapsed, The country club membership was revoked, and the luxury lifestyle vanished overnight. My brother and sister were forced to find actual employment, and my parents had to downsize into a small rental. 6 weeks later, I legally changed my name to Maya Thorne, my grandmother's maiden name. I moved to a different state, changed my phone number, and started my life over in a small apartment that felt like a sanctuary. I stopped financing their performance. I stopped waiting for their call. I realized that family isn't about blood. It's about mutual care and honesty. I didn't lose a family. I simply stopped paying for a lie. My savings rebuilt slowly, dollar by dollar, and for the first time, every cent in my account belonged to me, and me alone. Peace didn't arrive with fireworks. It arrived with silence. And in that silence, I finally found myself.